Hey everybody, this is Brad from Johnson Small Engines, better known as the one-hand mechanic. If I can do it, you can too. Today we are working on a Husqvarna YTH22V46, and today I want to show you, in my opinion, how to remove the front tire and fix a flat. And as you can see right here, it definitely is flat, and I highly recommend do not use tire sealant because that'll deteriorate the tire. And most of the time, tractor tires will not need to be replaced, and you can just put tubes in them and away you go. The tools and everything that we're going to use, I'm just going to show you this real quick. The tube that you're going to use, you just go ahead and look on your rim, the outside rim of your tire, and you're going to see a number. It's going to look like this on your tire. This is the tube, and it's going to be the exact same size as our tire. So we're going to use a 15 by 6 by 6. This is something that I have used for the past 20 years as a slide hammer, and it helps break the bead on the rim. So you can get the bead, which is the rubber part of the tire, has to come off the rim. And this makes it so much easier. I'll put a link in the description below if you guys want to purchase one. We have four different screwdrivers here to get the tire off the rim, to get the tube in it. A couple different pliers, and right here, this is a pretty nice tool. This is a new one here, so you can see it, and I'll put a link in the description below. But this does a lot of different things here. It takes the valve stem out, and actually can hold the valve stem too, and it helps you put a new one in if you have to, but we don't need to do that. The air chuck for my airline, but you guys can use any kind of an air compressor that you have, even those little portable ones that you use for your car. I'm using a digital air gauge, whatever air gauge you can use that'll go from 0 to 30, because these are low pressure tires. Some automotive gauges start at like 15, and they don't work very well on low air pressure tires. And a hook to get your cap off here. And I'm gonna use a jack, and we're gonna go ahead and put it underneath the front of the tractor where the rod for the mower deck actually comes up to the frame, and that's a good mounting point to put your jack. Okay, so before I jack this up all the way, we're gonna go ahead and take the cap off. So a lot of times these caps will be real hard as they get older and they age. The first thing I would suggest is putting it out in the sun for a while. That also warms up the tire so it's more pliable. A little bit of heat with a hair dryer or a heat gun. Just gonna put the hook in there and then pop it off. Now, this can get to be very greasy in here. If you're greasing your hubs correctly, it's going to be a mess. And I'm going to wipe this off. I also have a video, I'll put a link in the description below, to get rid of the bushings that they use on here. And you can put bearings in it to get away from the bushings that wear and eventually wear your axles down too. Just going to go ahead and push the clip off with your screwdriver. And you're going to have a washer, usually 1 or 2 washers on the outside. I'm going to go ahead and jack it up now. Just enough to get it off the ground. It should slide off. And be careful, there's usually a washer on the back side of this, and it sticks to the rim sometimes. This one did not, so this one is actually in on there, which is perfectly fine. But you just don't want to lose that washer because that's a spacer in there. Just be careful. Now, what these are metal bushings, and I'll put a link in the description below to change this out to bearings if you'd like to. We're going to go ahead and we need to drain the rest of the air out of it. That's where these 2 tools come in handy. This one basically I've had forever, and it's the same as this. And what I did was I take this out because when you're trying to unscrew something, this got in my way, and this is basically just a cleaner for your valve inside here. But you take this part here, it unscrews your valve stem, and if there's any air in here, you want to make sure that you have all the air out. There's a little bit of air left. Usually these tires get very stuck to the edge of the rim here, and they're supposed to be like that, so because these are tubeless until you put tubes in them, and so you have to get the bead off, and that's what they call the bead. I used a slide hammer and push down on this, but you guys can use like a blunt instrument, maybe something that you can hit with a hammer. Obviously, me being one-handed, you know, it's a little bit more tricky for me, but you guys, as long as you can beat this down and off, and I'll show you that in a second. This is a valve stem that has to come out of this rim. And when you put a tube in it, and this is just going to explain to you guys that when you have a tube in it, you have a valve stem here that comes off the tube that comes up through this rim. So if you have a valve stem that looks like this coming out of your rim, then you already have a tube in it and you have to remove that tube and fix it. But we know 100% that if it looks like it's pressed into the rim, not straight like this guy here, then you know that then you have a tubeless tire on it. Because a lot of people are like, well, how do I know if I have a tube in it or not? Well, that's how you tell if you have a tube already in it. And eventually, through life, most of the tractors will get tubes at some point. And as long as the tires are not dry rotted and you don't have a major hole in it, there's no need to buy a new tire. You just put a tube in. Now we have to get the bead off. By taking out the valve stem, it'll allow air to come out while we're hitting this too, which makes it easier for this to come down. So what I do is I put my slide hammer between the tire and the rim. It comes right off. So easy. Some of these, most of them are very easy. Turn it over, do the other side. It comes right off. And then you want to go back to your side with the valve stem on it. And at this point, what I do is I'll put my knee down on, push that in, and then put my knee and push the tire all the way in as far as it can go that way. And then throw my screwdrivers. I purposely made this one very dull. You don't want to hurt the tire, or even when you're putting the new tube in, and you're just going to pry this up while you're pushing in on your knee, which will allow the tire to come out, and this should come up. Hold that there. Put another screwdriver on this side here, and just do little bits at a time. Don't try to do too much. And do one on this side. Okay, once you have it out to a certain point, it should stay. And then you can remove your screwdrivers. And then I go back to my one. Now, as you can see, I use my knee to push down and put this in as far as it'll go. That's kind of the trick. As long as you can get that in as far as it can go on the rim, it allows this to come out and over the rim. And I'm just going to go ahead and just keeping little, you just start using little chunks on the rim. It starts to slide off, and eventually you can just pry this off with your hands and it'll pop up. Now at this point, we have to check. And a lot of you guys out there, if you want to, you can, before you take this all off, yes, you can put it in a big thing of water, fill it over there, and you can find out where the hole is. Now I can already see right here, out of coincidence, it looks like there's a thorn there. So I'm going to go in with my finger. Be careful because you can hurt yourself. If you guys have pickers or thorns, that'll do it. Now what I do is I take my knuckles and I'll go around the inside of the tire. And you have to be careful. You just do the visual check first to make sure there's nothing like a tack or a nail or something you can see. A lot of times these tires will go down. And now this one started leaking about every 3 days. It would go down. And so I know the puncture was very small and it may have been that thorn. Now, I'm not feeling anything at all. And on the side walls, just run them around. Unless you see some serious holes somewhere, just run your fingers around the side walls, and I do it on the inside. I'm very confident that there's nothing in here. And again, if you guys have any questions at all about having something coming through here, just put air in it before you take it off, or when you take it off the tractor, and dump it in some water, and you'll see where it's coming from. If your rim has any, like when they weld them together, sometimes they do a really bad job at welding, and you have to sand down the rim so you don't puncture the new tube. Keep that in mind. And just check to make sure the rim looks good. You don't have to take the tire off the rim at all. Another tool you're going to need is a pair of cutters because you're not using this valve stem anymore. You have to remember you have the other side of it inside the back end right here. So this is what the tubeless valve stem looks like. All right. And now we need to put the tube in it. Now the reason why I do this is that there's an up and down side to your tube. You have to make sure that this is actually upside down right now, because if you flip it over, the valve stem is on the upper side, and this is the upper side where you have the hole for your other valve stem. So you have to make sure that the tube is on the upside. And now, since we know that, we're just going to take our valve stem tool. We're going to remove the valve stem. Don't lose that valve stem, and don't mix it up with your other valve stem. You got to get rid of them get rid of the old, in with the new. Push all the air out of it as much as you can. Lift the tire up. Now what I normally do is just push it in as flat as you can without twisting it. Get the valve stem lined up with the hole, push it through. Once the valve stem is through, now here's the new one you guys will probably get if you order one, and I'll use it for you just so you know, but you're gonna screw that onto the valve stem. Now there's two different things that this does. This is helping me from this popping out, and also if you're putting a new tire on and you're getting a new valve, you can pull the valve through with this tool. So the tool is pretty nice, and the other side has that little indentation. That's for taking out your valve stem. So I'm gonna leave this on like that for now, and then we have to make sure we get the rim, or the tire, make sure you get the tube pushed in on the rim so there's no tube sticking out here, because the last thing we wanna do is use our screwdrivers and puncture it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and leave the valve stem on this side. We're gonna push in with our knee on this side, so this will go down and in as far as you can get it to go. Okay, now I'm gonna use this because it has a blunt end on it. I don't wanna pop this tube, and we're just gonna start slowly going around the rim. I'm pushing it with my left arm, pushing it in, and just pushing it over, like that. Goes on just like so. Now at this point, if this valve stem, as you can see, it's crooked. If you can, you may need to use some kind of a spray, like a lubricant, but you want to move this rim. As you can see, it moves. Sometimes they move easy. Sometimes use a little bit of like Simple Green or some kind of soap and water, and then you can move the rim to get this valve to come out straight. Then you want to use, I have a pair of needle nose pliers that have tape around them, and I need this to stay out as far as I can, and then I put a little tension on it so that it doesn't get sucked in when you put air in it. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to put my new valve stem back in the tube and screw it in, and make sure it's snug so it doesn't leak. And at the end, use a little bit of soapy water, make sure it's not leaking at all. My apologies, but another item I did not tell you guys about was the, I use Simple Green. It's just a cleaner, and it helps seal and let the tire adhere to the rim and pop out like it should. So it needs some lubricant. It just makes it easier to slide on. Now we're gonna go ahead and put some air in it, just a little bit. And then you'll hear air coming out. You gotta, all the air between the tire and the tube has to come out, and it comes through this little hole right here between the valve stem right here. Because once the bead starts adhering on both sides, then the air only can come out there, and it has to escape. And don't think you have a popped tire. Just be careful that we're gonna have air escaping until we get air all the way up into the tube and the rim. A little bit at a time. This one actually has the tire size right here. Hard to see, but it's 15 by 6 by 6, and that's the tube size that you want to get. And then over here it says maximum inflation is 14 psi, and I usually put them to about 16 because you're not driving on the road, and it puts a little less stress on the steering. Now you also have to make sure that the bead is on the rim all the way around on both sides, and that's why the lubricant, the Simple Green or soap and water, helps great. And then once I think I have it up far enough that this won't get pushed back in again, we can go ahead and check to make sure that's not leaking, which it's not. And I'm going to just tap it with a little bit of air to clean that out. I'm going to go ahead and see what we have right now. Okay, so we're at 13.7. I'm going to take it up to 16. There's 16. I'm going to go ahead and put the new cap from the tube on. And if you guys have the extra cap from your valve stem, make sure you put caps on all your valve stems, because you'll get dirt that gets caught up into the valve, and that'll also, you lose pressure that way. So caps are important to keep dirt away, and that's why you have them. So you should always run with caps on your valve stems. Now sometimes if you move the valve stem around, you'll hear the air coming out between the tube and the tire, and that's normal. But if you keep hearing it, you probably most likely by now popped the tube when you're putting it back in. So just be careful, and that's why I use a blunt screwdriver, and that helps. So we're gonna go ahead and put it back on again. Make sure the valve stem is sticking out. Came with 2 washers on the outside. And we're gonna go ahead and put the clip ring on top, and I use a pair of pliers to push it down. Like so. Clean up this cap a little bit. Just gonna go ahead and push that on. And if it's very hard to get on, you can take a heat gun or your hair dryer, or put it out in the sun for a while, or buy a new cap if you need to. This one's been a little bit rough. They have to be tight so they don't fall off. There it goes. Go ahead and let it down. So that's pretty much it on how to install an inner tube in the front tire on a Husqvarna YTH 2246. This will work on many other tractors, Husqvarna, MTD, all the tractors out there. If you guys like this video, please give this a thumbs up. Please subscribe, share my channel with your friends, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.